fucking, this is why I don't fuck with people. It's the same damn lesson. I wish that cat, I don't know if he unsubscribed for real or not, but I hope you use this part. Matter of fact, use this part. You got to fucking learn the path. It's one thing to know it, it's another thing to walk it. Malcolm and Elijah had beef. What happened? East Coast, West Coast Panther Party had beef. What happened? Name me one time that getting involved in bullshit beef like that between this Negro and that Negro has ever benefited the people, and I'll jump in on it. But you got to be, at this point, a dumb motherfucker to continue.
We grew up in the hood like most black folks. Little did they know it comes gorillas from the South Coast, breaking them boots out, living and working in many pieces. Black rain for not 5, explosion posse going to switch with this revolutionary tactic. Them flips up out of my mattress. I practice pro-blackness, not to say I'm prejudiced, Western and darkness. No, I'm not suicidal, but I'm dying for my people. No, I'm not authentic, I distinguish good from evil. I use the world on grounds, align my mind to burn from ignorance. I cut away my perm, mine got strong, some can't deal with this mentality. Think that I'm weak, I'm not no gangster. It won't be televised how many times my posse pull the trigger. Lord, oh Lord, am I the devil too, or am I really the son? Unto the throne, son, the flock is true. Image of you, a portrait that I could not never see. Dumb as I may be, I never go, I kamikaze G. Genocide.
That's fun.
Peace and power. Once again, this is the Panther 48. This is Brother Sight calling out of Texas. I'm sitting here with Brother E calling out of Florida.
Yes, sir.
And Brother War calling out of San Diego, California.
All power to the people.
And today's discussion, you know, we're just gonna dialogue. And one of the things that I think would be important to know, because the Panther 48, we put this group together for the purpose of codifying revolutionary ideology. Panther ideology specifically, but revolutionary ideology in general. And one of the things, if you've been following the channel for a little while, you've noticed that we don't just depend on our own thoughts and our own ideas, but we've been bringing other people on, other leaders of movements and people that have been active in the community, Huey P. Newton Gun Club, Elder Panthers, Panthers from as far as California to Dallas, we've had on the show, talking brothers like Aaron Michaels, who founded the new Black Panther Party. So we basically been trying to get different ideas and concepts so that we can put on the platform and that the people can have those ideas codified to build on and even debate if they disagree with them. But one of the things that I would think that people want to know is what puts us in a position to believe that we can speak on these ideas. You know, we are, all three of us have a foundation in the movement, a deep foundation. Brother War being the only one that's still physically active in the community, and me and Brother E no longer as active as we was. So Brother War, I want to ask a question. I'm gonna start it with you. We're gonna start it with you, and then we'll just flow. Cause that's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna flow. We don't have anything scripted. We're just gonna talk. But you're still active in the community. You've been active in Dallas, Atlanta, now California. You've been active for a while. Why are you still active? Why do you still do what you do? And how do you see the progression of the Panther movement itself in general, as far as where it's going now and where it would be in the future?
All right, first I'm gonna start off by saying, addressing the whole part about being active. I don't see myself any more active than y'all are. It's just so happened that I have to be more visible in the field because I'm in the process of just trying to teach the next generation the field process and how to come up through that. Why I've been that way is because I feel like until things are to the point to where I've seen the level of progression beyond to what it was when I came into the movement, I still have a responsibility and a duty to do, as well as the fact that I feel like from the standpoint of leadership and a teaching standpoint and getting the youth or the next generation ready for the movement. I haven't completed my mission, and so therefore I'm still obligated to do the same type of work. Now that doesn't mean I want to be where I'm at, but I see myself being obligated, and through that honor, that obligation, and that respect to the legacy of the Panther Party, I continue to do what I do. Now, what I would say in regards to the difference between my generation coming into the movement and the next generation is I feel like by having the technological development that's going on now and the pace of technology, it really changes the game from, what was encountered in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and beyond. So the movement, to me, from that standpoint, then changed a lot. And I think from a psychological standpoint, it's caused us to have to evolve with that. And what I see happening and what I see needing to be addressed is the fact that because of this virtual reality and social media mentality that a lot of our people have started, going asleep in, should I say, we find that we need to reconnect ourselves back to, real live face-to-face work. And those ethics need to be retaught to a lot of the Panthers in terms of just real organizing. I think as it applies to what's going on in the field, with the advent of having instant access to data, I wouldn't even call it real information. Some of it is, but mostly just data. People are inundated with this type of this instant access, and it causes people to be less critical thinkers. And so, to me, the movement has shifted more so to getting our people on track and recognizing that we have to be able to be critical thinkers, and in being critical thinkers, we have to be able to move and formulate and produce. And production has, I feel like, slipped to a big degree simply because people have instant access to data resources. And because of that, the lack of research and the lack of actual tangible, on the ground, making this my own and defining this myself, you don't have as many scholars, you don't have as many people that are recording and passing the knowledge on in a proper format. It's a lot of one-on-ones. It's a lot of instant what can I answer within 30 seconds or less type of stuff, and that's just not going to get where we need to go. We have to recognize that the pace of oppression and the way oppression happens, especially from a psychological and mental process, is constantly growing. It's not slowing down, and it's not becoming just quick sound bites. It's growing. So our movement needs to be able to address these type of things. So, further on, when we have more discussion, I'll speak more on that based on some of the topics that we'll cover. But I just feel like our people are definitely, we're definitely needed. And I think the thing about what we're learning with the difference of generations within the Panther Party and the Panther movements and just organizing, period, is that we have to reconnect, the youth, the middle age, and the elderly, and our elders in regards to just the way knowledge is passed on, what knowledge is passed on, and what type of conditioning that we need to be prepared for to move forward. And a lot of this instant access to data, I think, has retarded some of the core values that are needed to be able to progress ourselves in more of a direct output in terms of the work. That's it.
Answer your question? Shit.
Yeah, he answered.
What?
I want to ask you the same question in kind of reverse. War gave us the reason why he's still physically active in the community. I would like to kind of know why you don't see the need to be, or clarify for me if that ain't the right word, to be physically active in the community. And I want both of y'all, whoever want to do it, to give me an idea of where do you see the Panther legacy right now. Answer the question about you personally first.
So, for one thing, I'm in the country. I'm surrounded by white people. Number one, a whole mess of white people, okay? I have, so See, I was listening to Alan Watts earlier, and he kind of fucked my head up, clarified some things, but he talked about how we are all, what is it? The reason the shaman and the gurus and all of that go out to the woods or into the mountains or wherever is so that they can turn off all the voices, so they can turn off all the interactions, because the reality of it is we're all products of our role in society, the way people see us, the expectations that come to be placed upon us. And so in order to find who we actually are, there comes a point where we have to turn all those voices off and listen to our own selves. There comes a point when you look back and you realize that you've played the role, and I don't mean in a fake fronting type of way, but I mean played your part in the unfolding of the reality in social terms. And there comes a point when you start to reject all of those roles, whether they're good, bad, otherwise it's irrelevant. You would start rejecting all of those roles, the more you realize who it is you are, the more you embrace and become comfortable with your personal particular expression. So that coupled with the idea that, again, being that principled, living or aspiringly principled person, if I believe that I'm an African, I'm going to work to live as Africans live, have a closer relationship with the earth and all of those types of things that we talked about. And that alone does not leave a lot of time to invest in a broader community stance, because the reality of it is anything that's going in the right direction, where, or the way we see is the quote unquote right direction and a productive direction. Most cities, if we were to go there, we would be starting whatever that looked like. You know, whatever they have going on, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be very short-sighted. It's going to be something made up of folks who are continuing to make the same mistakes that we've already made. And so it would be a matter of regressing and going back and trying to grab and get people up to a particular point or up to a particular level or in a particular mindset. It's going to take a whole lot of time to do. I'm not the chairman type. That's that guy. I don't do that type of shit. Y'all know, if you don't get it, fuck it. So at this point, that's pretty much been my attitude, and which plays into the whole legacy thing is, you know, I've said for years that we're not going to be the ones to set off this big revolution thing. We're not going to be the ones, and I mean Black folk, Africans in this country are not going to be the ones to start the actual breaking of the chains and moving in a particular direction. That if we don't have something in place at this point, as far as I'm concerned, for the long term, it's too damn late. That the things that I see happening on the landscape are at such a critical mass that the only things that are going to come together now are going to be acts of desperation. Me personally, I don't want to be involved with a bunch of folks who are involved strictly out of desperation. I already don't trust motherfuckers, or better yet, I trust them to do what they're going to do, which most times is going to be some selfish type shit that's not going to benefit my situation at all. You know, the community thing and linking up and connecting with folks, for theory, for ideology, and for all of those things, that's great. But for where I'm at, it's no longer a viable path. You know, I'm not trying to begin the creation of communal unity in the midst of all of this shit that's coming apart, that's falling down. I have to get what it is I have together, straight, my homestead, so that as it does fall apart, I can maintain. I mean, you know what I mean? So none of the things that we've said in the past would I say, oh, that was wrong, or we made a mistake. I wouldn't, you know, all of that type of stuff. I still stand by every speech I gave, every class I taught, every debate, all of that shit, I stand by. But as far as applications at the particular point in time, it just doesn't suit what it is I see as the most productive for my home. And like I said, particularly because I am by myself out here, I don't have, you know, your family or or you know, any of that. So yeah, for me, it's the prepper lifestyle should be the next iteration of a Panther organization. If I started one now, it would be the Black Panther Farmers Association or some shit. That's what we've been doing, because that's, for me, where we as a people need to be. We need to already be less dependent on Walmart. We need to be less dependent on somebody fixing our vehicles. We need to be less dependent on, you know, external shit, because all of that shit is already starting to break down. They got like over 100 shipping containers sitting out in the Pacific Ocean off the California coast because they can't dock, because they don't have people to unload the shit, because everybody's striking, or because everybody and their mama got COVID or some kind of COVID, or they thought they had COVID, or their grandnephew had COVID and they saw him for 30 seconds on the YouTube, so they think they've been exposed, so blah, 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 blah. So all of these mechanisms that we're used to have started to falter and come apart. The dollar is nosediving. You know, overall inflation is going through the freaking roof. You think gas is expensive now, give it 6 months. You think, you know, milk is expensive and hard to find now, give it 6 months, all of that type of shit. So for me, we should already be putting those things in place where we can take care of that shit. Because like I said, it's not inflate, the cost of shit is not going to go down. It's not going to go down. It's not, it hasn't. You look back in 1972, 1971, gas was like 39, 49 cents a gallon. You'll never see that again, not in this country, not this way. It's just not gonna happen. When Nixon took the country off the gold standard, ever since 1971, August 15, 71 or 72, took us off the gold standard. Since then, the dollar has lost 98% of its purchasing power. That means if you had $1 then, that same dollar today would be worth what? 2 cents. So it's not improving. As a matter of fact, there have been several articles I've seen talking about how many companies, okay, so people don't want to come back to work, or people got COVID, or whatever the reason is, there's all these job openings. What are we gonna do? Robots. They've already, or not already, because they were already doing it, but they're upping the movement toward automation to replace humanity in the workplace. So you think all this job stuff is temporary, all this inflation stuff is, it's not. This is according to how it's rolling out, whether it's a conscious plan or not. This is the way the shit is rolling out. We are replaceable. We've been replaceable since we got here, and now they've got something to replace us with. That's been their only issue, is what are we gonna replace niggas with? Once we're able to replace them, they're completely expendable. We don't even need them to flip the burgers anymore, because we got robots to flip burgers and pick up trash and all this other type of shit. So that's my mind state. If you're not talking about that type of shit, to me, I mean, we can discuss it, but beyond that, it's like I don't have a lot of time for that. I got to build rabbit hutches and garden and all this other type of shit. It's I see why people don't want to do this shit. Because you got your regular 8-hour job, then on top of that, you got your regular people, you know, washing clothes, fixing dinner, all that kind of stuff. And on top of that, you got to go out and work with the garden. You got to pull your herbs off. You got to dehydrate your herbs. You got to package your herbs. You got to save your seeds from the tomatoes that you grew. You got to save seeds so that you'll have some seeds for the next crop. Then you got to go out and you got to deal with the rabbits and all those whatever livestock you got. It's a whole nother life on top of what it is, just trying to maintain your slave life, your free life on top of the slave life. So yeah, I mean, if it's not talking about some type of actual real preparation for real world, this is not, let's have a study group anymore. Fuck that. This is not, oh, let's fight the police shit. We're not in a position to really even to plan for that. I mean, we have the closest they come is what, defund the police, you dumbasses. I mean, it makes no sense. So we don't have anything in place to attack the system. So in my mind, step back, let the system continue to burn itself out, because that's what's happening. It's collapsing. Step back and prepare what it is you need to prepare to take care of you and yours as things continue to progress on.
Let me ask you. Let me ask you another question because you touched on something that kind of grabbed my attention. So, would you consider yourself the revolutionary hermit?
Ah,
I mean, because you off to yourself out in the country, farming, raising rabbits. I mean, I always view you. I always say you still ain't seen the movie Red yet, have you?
yeah, I've seen that.
Okay, I call you Marvin on Red.
Yeah,
Remember Marvin, the dude that stayed in the car?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would love to have it.
So what do you think is going to happen that you got to do this preparation for? What do you think is coming that we should, as a people, should be prepared for in order to survive?
I mean, it's not even a matter of thinking it. This is your area. This is logic. No empire lasts forever. Number
True
one.
indeed.
Number two, if you look back and there are books on this shit that go back and essentially they've laid out there's a life cycle that empires have. You know, they go through the whole exploration phase, and then there's another phase, 2 or 3 more phases that it goes through. And one of the last phases, or the last phases, is this idea of gluttony and just overindulgence of the masses of the people. The reality of it is, as bad as the poor folk have it in this country, it's still a whole lot better than most countries in the world. You know, there's all kinds of just gluttony and self-indulgence and all of this type of shit that goes on in this country. And that's one of the signs of, matter of fact, in Rome, toward the end, one of the things they did was they started making, not superstars, what is it called? Celebrities out of chefs. I mean, that's an actual thing that happened. Their chefs became celebrities. And lo and behold, if there aren't a plethora of chef shows on TV, not just on, you know, PBS or some shit, but mainstream, you know, cooking shows. So this idea of gluttony and just diving in and all of that has become very mainstream. But the lifespan of an empire is roughly 225 years, give or take. And the US is just past that. One of the things that happened in Rome was a devaluation of the dollar, or of their dollar. It started out as gold coins. Then it moved to gold-plated coins, which meant each coin was worth less, but was still representing the same amount of money. Then they moved to even less gold in the coin, as it got less and less valuable. So essentially, this propped up inflation and all the money issues that they've had, and again, or that they did have, which was one of the things that led to their downfall, is the people became poorer and poorer, and the rich folk got richer and richer. Income inequality. You know, in the US, after, I want to say 81, pennies used to be made of copper. After 81, 85, somewhere in there, pennies started being made primarily of zinc with a copper coating around it. So a penny isn't even worth a penny's worth of copper anymore. You can't even take that shit to the copper place and have them melted down. You can trade in, you know, copper pipes from houses, how they be stealing them out of houses and take them up there to the recycling. You can't even do that with pennies, because pennies are mostly zinc now. They're worthless. So the American dollar, the only reason that it's still propped up as strong as it is now is because of the whole, was it petrodollar? The deal they made with OPEC and Saudi Arabia and them to basically provide them with cheap weapons, as long as they promised, in part, to only trade oil for dollars. So in order for, you know, some other country to buy oil from OPEC, which is the oil cartel of the world, they had to first buy dollars, which made the dollar really, really valuable. With that, with Russia and Iran and China and other countries, Venezuela beginning to circumvent that and not use the dollar anymore, the dollar is becoming less valuable. So things will continue to get more and more expensive. Again, this is not how I feel. This is what's actually happening. Our jobs since the 1970s, the worker production has gone up, in part because of automation and tools and all of that. So the worker output has gone up, but the worker wage has stayed flat. The cost of shit has gone up. Worker wage has stayed flat. That wage is not going to change. You can get $15 an hour if you want to, But because of inflation and because the cats at the top are not going to trickle down, they've been talking trickle down economics since the Reagan era back in the 80s, give a bunch of money to the big guys at top, and that money will trickle down to the poor folk at the bottom. Hasn't worked yet. So this $15 an hour is pointless because they're still going to take theirs off the top. They're going to print more money. The $15 that you did get is now worth $7.25. So you're still in the same situation because we're still playing the same fucking game.
You just think you're in a better situation because the face value of the money got you feeling like I make $15 an hour.
15, baby. Yeah. We don't think about economics. You know, Elijah Muhammad says one of the things that they never taught us, and they didn't. They haven't taught us economics. We have no clue what that is, what that means. So these dying. On top of that, the U.S. is beginning to invest and to look into the idea of digital currency, which means that if you get your check in digital currency, they can mark that digital currency in this whole UBI, this universal basic income, where they just give you money. They can give you $1,000, but they can stipulate in that program as a part of that money that they're sending you that this 500 can only be used to pay this, this, and this. This 500 can only be used to pay this, this, and this. So now they're controlling your money on a whole different level that we still don't understand. So with us playing the game, it's not fucking working. Playing their game is not fucking working. If it was working, we'd be free because Jay-Z's a billionaire. We should be free. None of that shit is working. And for me, the primary reason for that is, and maybe you want to fight about it, is capitalism is counter to who it is we are. It just is. We talk about how we're capitalists, and we're not capitalists. Ain't none of us capitalists. We're victims of capitalism because capitalism involves the ownership of property. Capitalism involves the ownership of the means of production. Capitalism is practiced by those who are able to capitalize on whatever situation is going on. That ain't us. We are at the behest of those who are capitalizing on us. So it's just a natural progression. You know, all of this, where we're at right now, Marx talked about 100 whatever years ago that income inequality, inflation, all of these things were going to happen. He described them almost to the T, that this shit was going to happen. If you ever want to understand capitalism, don't read capitalism books written by capitalists. Read Marx. Read that the socialist breakdown. Whether you agree with the politics or not, Marx gave just the most profound description and breakdown of what capitalism is and essentially what's going to happen to it. The crony capitalism that we talk about, this ain't real capitalism. This is crony capitalism. Whatever, it's capitalism. He predicted, quote unquote, predicted that that's exactly what was going to happen. So it only makes sense that more and more of the wealth is going to continue to get piled up at the top, and those at the bottom will continue to get poorer and poorer till we start looking at Braveheart and the god-awful position, the situations that they were living in, and see ourselves, because that's what's going to happen. What's going to stop those on top who write the rules, who create the money, who benefit the most from the shit? What's to stop them from continuing along that path? Not a fucking thing. Not morality, not the meek shall inherit the earth. None of that bullshit is going to stop it. So it's going to continue to pile up at the top. And that's why I say for our best interest is to unplug from the matrix in a sense, because if the matrix goes down and you connected to it, it's going to take you with it. So you detach from the matrix, build a life for yourself so that as it falls apart, you're able to maintain. Now, yeah, that means you got to be willing to give up some shit. There are levels of existence we're prepared to accept. You have to be of that mindset. You got to be able to deal without your Netflix and deal without your Gucci and your Prada. You got to be able to deal without the pretty things that ain't really life any fucking way. And if we're not prepared to deal with that, then again, you're not talking about revolution to me. You're just talking. I've been there, I've done that. It's bullshit. So if you're not talking about creating another world, creating our own, even if it's just this little spot and all this big shit going on around us, having this little spot, then that's what it needs to be. But yes, this country is going to continue to essentially every explosion, boom, at some point reaches its mass. I forget what it's called, but its mass trajectory outward and begins to fall back in on itself. If you've ever seen a nuclear explosion with the mushroom cloud, it goes up and then it sucks back in. That's all this shit is. The US and capitalism, we live on a finite area called the earth. Capitalism has to keep growing and keep going. One of the things that the shareholders look for when Apple or Microsoft gets on their shareholder calls to tell them how the business is doing, shareholders want to know what was the growth. How did the company grow? How did it get better? That's one of the things that it gets valued by, is how many new subscribers or new gadgets or new whatever that it sold. Eventually, you're not going to be able to have any more subscribers because there ain't going to be nobody else left to subscribe. So capitalism, these companies are growing out. Eventually, it's going to hit mass, whatever it's called, and begin to collapse back in on itself. And I mean, me for one, I intend to be disconnected from that shit as much as possible so that I'm not caught up in that collapse and coming back down. So yeah, y'all do what the fuck you want to do. I'm getting some chicken, some quail, grow some more tomatoes.
Well, you look like you try to jump in there.
No, I love what everything Brother E is saying. And see, that's why, to me, like I said, even though y'all may not consider yourselves as active, everything that he just spit, I think, is valuable, very, very valuable information that our people need to know and hear. So, I mean, I can't add any more to that. But what I can say is just going into the aspect of us being a Panther 48 and recognizing what the next generation needs to prepare for. I consider what we're talking about political education. And so when you talk about the some of the information or some of the direction of the new generation of Panthers, I think it kind of just goes into what needs to be taught to the next generation. And Brother E, to me, was right on point with that. But what I would say happens as a result of a lot of our people being turned off to capitalism, you know, those that are in the knowledge base and the know base, part of the problem I think that goes into that is that by us being turned off to capitalism and to politics, we tend to not recognize that political education in politics specifically is just based on self-governing. And since we are turned off on governing because we're turned off on our government, we tend to forget and lose track of what I refer to as the three S's, which is self, seeding, and social. Those are the aspects of what political education and self and governance encompasses. And so if we're not students or astute of governing, then we can't apply the knowledge of self that Brother E is talking about in terms of being producers versus being consumers. A lot of us are not attracted to the idea of that production. And so therefore, going back to what E is talking about, the working at your plantation from a 9 to 5 or for the really 9 to 5 don't even exist anymore, is really everybody has a second job or a hustle. So from the standpoint of doing that and then having to go home and be a producer of your own environment and work toward your own liberation on that front, most people don't have the endurance and the willpower to do so. But in essence, what we're doing as we put in those 8 to 12 hours or more a day for the system and for this imploding system that's happening, then what we're doing is we're sealing our own doom and our own fate. So even more so does that mean that you need to be doing exactly the stuff that Brother E is talking about. But because most of our people are turned off to governing, they don't recognize self-governing, seeding, and social government. So by not knowing those three S's from that standpoint, where does that leave us? That leaves us more in a position of being expendable. That leaves us more in a position of not recognizing the historical markers that took place as it applies to, just United States coming out of a environment to where you needed the slaves to operate on that physical free labor aspect, to the point of an industrialization, to the point of now a technological revolution to where things are going automated. So what options are left for that physical slave? You see, anything that is left tends to have something to do with being placed in a concentration camp or prison, call it what you want, and working your life from that standpoint. Yeah, there's still opportunities for free labor. There's still opportunities for for sweat labor. But is that really what we want to be left with? So we have to define our lifestyle. We have to define what it is we want to move forward on. So when you talk about the education of the next generation of Panthers or just organizers in general, we have to be preparing ourselves for these situations. So we have to study those 3 S's as it applies to that and incorporate that. So that means going back to recognizing how we've been led to be lazy and how the lazy lifestyle, which goes back to why I said that social mentality of having instant gratification by getting an answer versus getting the truth and not being able to come up with that truth of your own, but let it be defined for you. These defining for yous or sealing your doom and sealing your fate. And so I feel like at the end of the day, as it comes from that, going back to what he's talking about governments imploding and collapsing, the thing about that is that just basically means we're going to more than likely end up trading masters. It don't mean we're going to be free from anything. So the conditions are not going to change. They're going to get worse for us. And it's going to lead to some aspect of an extinction.
And see, along the lines of extinction, okay, so every empire, whether it's the Greek, Roman, whether it's the English Empire, the French, Spanish, all of that shit, all of those empires collapsed. And as the US empire collapses, and it's an empire when you have military bases in damn near every country on the fucking planet, 150 or whatever it is, military bases that these cats got. The difference is the interconnectedness. Is that if you have one of these major players if China just disappeared, it's a whole lot of shit that we buy at Walmart and whatnot that wouldn't be there anymore. So the global community is susceptible and sensitive to the collapse of major players. It's not going to be a matter of one country. Okay, it's no longer a player. It's over there now, trying to struggle and get back together. It's going to be a domino effect where all of these countries that are so intertwined with one another begin to pull and tug at various strings of their reality. And you add on top of that the biggest or one of the biggest industries in the world is the military industrial complex, and with the US having ostensibly pulled out of Afghanistan and wherever else, there's a need for that industry to be able to flex, for it to be productive. And if we step back and look at things that are going on, and it's another area that even those of us within the movement don't pay enough attention to. And those are things like what's going on in the South China Sea. The US and China are basically taunting each other every day. They've got satellite pictures of China's built several different aircraft carriers that they're US aircraft carriers that they're using for target practice. They just set them up out in far away from the people, I guess from the people, in open areas, and they'll practice like they're bombing the shit out of it. The China and Russia have been playing military games, some of the largest the world has ever seen. Like I said, they're constantly taunting each other over both the Baltic. NATO is pushed right up against Russia's front door now. So there's that whole dynamic going on. And again, with China and the US being basically in what is kind of like its Gulf of Mexico, that South China Sea is right there at China's doorstep. And so there's this issue back and forth with Taiwan. China says Taiwan is part of us, and Taiwan says, oh, no, we're not. And the US has said, okay, to keep things cool, we're not going to actually recognize Taiwan as separate from y'all, wink, wink. Trump kind of pissed gasoline on that shit, but whatever. So now there's that conflict, and China's not Iraq. China's not Syria. China's not a punk. You know what I mean? They've tested hypersonic, or it was Russia's, one of the two, tested hypersonic weapons, missiles here lately, which is essentially a missile that the US has no defense for at this point. So there's this game of who's got the biggest dick on a global level that has the potential of coming unhinged. You know, the wrong move gets misinterpreted. I don't know if y'all remember Khrushchev and Kennedy and all of that was going on with Cuba back in the 60s, and how close the world was to a nuclear war at that point. You know, so I don't see it being, I see this, they're calling it the Great Reset, but I see it as being very much a greater event than what people have seen in the past, and most definitely anything that we're prepared for. And that's not to say, you know, we get this idea in our head, oh, the world's going to end. That's nonsense. You can't prepare for that. If the world ends, it's over, stupid. Stop. Just stop. It's not what I'm saying. But the world as you know it, absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, and like what was that, we've got to be prepared for that type of shit. Because if someone does march in, take over the US, yeah, we'll be speaking German next week or Chinese or whatever it is, or it'll just be a free for all. There'll be a bunch of clans everywhere, reduced back to a particular state of existence. You know, they've created a world, a way to destroy life on the planet, you know, and every day they're finding new reasons to do exactly that. So there's gonna be some major seismic changes coming down the pipe. When? Don't know. Soon, I hope, because I'm tired. But,
Why you
yeah.
hope?
Because man, I don't understand why that's such a positive thing in my mind.
Yeah.
It perplexes me at times. Why you want to see the country fall? What the fuck you think I want to see it come apart? I'm tired of this shit. I've been seeing this shit my whole life. It's like, this shit ain't right, y'all. Imagine being an 8-year-old. It's like, this shit ain't right, y'all, and having to carry that weight. Tired of this shit. I'm tired of the government. I'm tired of the bullshit that you can see through so easily. But I'm even more tired, and that's another reason that I'm off to myself, more tired of dealing with, especially our folk, who will agree, yeah, it's messed up, it need to change, but ain't willing to do shit. That's just weakness to me. That's the ultimate weakness. What is it? I don't know if it was Sun Tzu or no, it wasn't Sun Tzu, that other guy that wrote the Tao. No,
Lao Tzu.
I think it was Confucius, said no research, no right to complain. You know, if you're not gonna do something about it, shut the fuck up and take your lickings. That's it. You have no right to, you don't have a right to an opinion if you're not getting involved in the shit and pushing back. So at this point, 99.9% of the people I come in contact with ain't trying to change shit. So why do I need to listen to their opinion? I want to hear it. I want to hear it.
All right, I got another one for y'all. I'm for the real left, because I
Roasted.
think this is something we all got to address. Now, as I said earlier, we interviewed a lot of people. One of the people that we interviewed was Krista Muhammad from Houston,
Lord.
Texas. And we interviewed the sister. We had a comment from somebody who felt that we was wrong for interviewing this sister for whatever reason. And basically what they said in their comment was, man, I was following the Panther 48. Y'all were doing some good stuff, but y'all had this traitor, this backstab on, and I'm unfollowing y'all. I'm done with y'all. You know, this is what the commenter said. They said that we need to go watch Tahaka Bay and get us some information from him for so that we won't just be putting anybody on our platform. Now, I'm gonna let y'all speak for y'all own self. I'm gonna speak for me. I responded to that comment in our name, and I essentially told them that the Panther 48 does not take sides in black on black beefs. That we are not about, you know, sitting up. We're not the revolutionary peoples. And I ain't talking about people, I'm talking about People's Magazine. You know, we're not a gossip column. We're not Hip Hop Weekly. We're not that. We're not any of those things. And we don't believe in sitting up beefing and arguing and cursing and fussing with our own people. We don't believe in that. If somebody is out of line and faking and causing extreme detriment to the community, the way I came up in the revolutionary ranks, we exposed it in our way, and those people would never be a problem again. We didn't do it on social media though, because didn't know social media exists. So basically, I just let the person know that we don't do that. That's not our thing. We open the platform up and allow a person to speak for themselves, and then the people have the right to look at what the person is doing and listen to what the person is saying and make a judgment call on themselves. I don't see how it's beneficial for revolutionaries to just be at war with each other and attacking each other and turn each other down. I don't see how that's beneficial, because the whole purpose of being a revolutionary is to make a positive, constructive, productive change in the community. I don't see how different groups of revolutionaries beefing against each other can do that. I just don't see it, and that's just my personal opinion on that. And I want to know what you brothers think about the comment. They said, basically the person said they unsubscribing to us, they ain't following us no more because we had that sister on.
Go ahead, E. Go ahead.
Nah, that's it. Bye. Go ahead.
My take is this, and that kind of just really goes back to what you said. The reason why we reached out to Crystal, and the reason why we reached out to a few of those people is that we were dealing with people that we had bonded with from day one. Crystal Muhammad was around back in the day when the new Black Panther Party was not this internationally known body of people. Known, I said, okay? So from that standpoint, the thing about dealing with Crystal and allowing her the platform to speak, and based on the questions that we asked her, I stand behind that, because nothing about the nature of the interview and letting her get certain information out of there and getting that perspective across conflicts with the fact that the bottom line to the Panther 48 is to provide the information, is to help bring together and get the newer generation and those that want to participate in this revolutionary thing, an alternative and a actual platform that's going to deal with things from a dialogue perspective of having information and things you can utilize. We're not about back and forth drama play. And unfortunately, that even goes into what I said earlier. So many people are caught up into looking forward to hearing bashing, looking forward to something negative that gets said, or looking forward to us fighting each other. I think that's part of the problem, and that also shows the mentality that most of us have, to where the only time things are interesting to us is if we are cutting each other's throats, verbally, or on social media, just being negative and dysfunctional with one another. That's not what we're about, and that's part of the problem. So to me, to unsubscribe yourself from the ability to be able to get access to information that will empower you because you don't like where some of the information came from, that's, to me, that would be your demise. That's arrogance, and that's your demise. So that's my answer to that.
Well, I would just say the only beef I've got into was Kumo D and LL Cool J, and Kumo D was by far the better lyricist. I don't care what y'all say, but it's the same fucking. This is why I don't fuck with people. It's the same damn lesson. I wish that cat. I don't know if he unsubscribed for real or not, but I hope you use this part. Matter of fact, use this part. You got to fucking learn the path. It's one thing to know it, it's another thing to walk it. Malcolm and Elijah had beef. What happened? East Coast, West Coast Panther Party had beef. What happened? Name me one time they're getting involved in bullshit beef like that between this Negro and that Negro has ever benefited the people, and I'll jump in on it. But you gotta be, at this point, a dumb motherfucker to continue to invest your time in the back and forth soap opera that the oppressor wants us to involve ourselves in anyway. I don't give a shit if Chris Muhammad is the worst person on the face of the planet. She has something valuable if we're intelligent enough to hear what she has to say Take what she has to say and move on. Quit getting so fucking wrapped up in the cult of personality. You know, if people weren't wrapped up in the cult of personality, maybe they would have, maybe they could remember, oh, Donald Trump said this came from a Chinese laboratory, but we thought he was a, you know, he grabbed pussies and shit, so we didn't like him, but he was telling us the truth. He you know, if we weren't so wrapped up in the cult of personality, we could see that this whole Russiagate thing that they tried to pin on Trump last year and back some was a bunch of nonsense. But at the same time, the exact same scenario that they accused him of is playing out with Joe Biden and his son and his family exchanging money for access to the then vice president when he was VP under Obama. The exact same fucking scenario that they accused Trump of doing, they're doing. They held on to the information because they've had it, they've been under investigation for like a year and a half now, but they didn't say nothing about it till after the election. Ring a bell? So until after the election, and he got in, and now it's starting to leak out. But we're so caught up in this cult of personality. I don't give a shit what Crystal Muhammad and this other dude got. I don't care. They can go in the back room, fuck, and come back out. It doesn't have anything to do with what we're supposed to be doing. So all of that is just a bunch of small time nonsense. Khalid and Farrakhan had beef. Where did that lead them? It never, ever, ever, and I wish this dude would listen. I hope he's watching. Ever, has it ever benefited? Understand my word. It has never benefited our people to involve ourselves in that nonsense, ever, ever. So stop fucking doing it. If you can find a story, historical precedents, where two black leaders got into it and was just tearing each other down and beating each other up, and it somehow moved our people forward, send it to me. I'll sit down, I'll stop doing Panther 48, I'll quit. But the reality of it is you ain't gonna find it, dumbass, because it doesn't exist. This is why I don't fuck with people, because this is the same fucking conversation we had 20 goddamn years ago, and people, you come from the streets and you see motherfuckers doing this same shit, getting into beef over nonsense. You stand on the side and you say, man, that's some nonsense they fighting over. But then when it comes up in the black area and it's close to you, oh, that's my dog, you can't talk about him. Like, you dumb motherfucker, stop it. You're doing the same nigga shit that you trying to supposedly get away from. Stop that shit. Stop it. Grow the fuck up. You know, they talking about man up, man the fuck up, woman the fuck up. Leave that shit alone. I'm sure people got beef with me. I give a damn. Can we work together? Can we build something from time to time? I say hi to you, you say hi to me, and we'll go on about our business. Move on. Quit being such a fucking sucker. I mean, this shit is tiring, man. This shit is just draining, dude, because you know, y'all know this is 90% of what we had to deal with, dealing with people. I'm sure there were people in the N.B.P.P in Dallas back in the day, hated Brother E because he was always talking about books or blah, 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 blah. But I still marched next to your ass in Jasper. I still had a rifle to make sure you didn't get your ass shot up, because I don't give a fuck about that. We got work to do. You go to your job. Your employee don't give a fuck about, you don't like Mandy because she wore the wrong kind of hair color to your auntie's surprise party. I don't give a fuck. We have a job to do. Clock in, do your job, go the fuck home. So this is the revolutionary work. Clock in, do your work, go the fuck home. Leave that small time shit for you and your girl to beef out someplace else. I ain't got time for that shit. Carry on. That's all I got. I'm tired. I'm tired of motherfucking shit.
Well, I think y'all both said it. I don't think it can be said no clearer than that. And I hope that person is still watching. If they is, they probably gonna unsubscribe for real this time. But
he can go and take anybody that likes to get down and wants to see that type of sideshow. Go on, fuck on. It's a video out there, which I didn't realize that video that I sent y'all about the Real Housewives of Civil Rights. That one was actually like 10 years old, and then there was a version of it with Cardi B. It's like 3 or 4 years old. So yeah, I mean that's the type of shit they need to be watching, because they like that shit. That's the shit they want, the drama. That's what they want. People say they don't like drama. That's bullshit. People love drama.
Love it.
especially when they can sit back and eat some popcorn and watch it, maybe get just a little bit involved so it's exciting, and then pull back out. So people love some fucking drama. And so stop that. Let's keep it real. Be 100. That's bullshit. You fake motherfucker. You love drama, and you just need to own that shit. You want to see some drama, but this ain't what this space is supposed to be. Not supposed to be about that drama. We're not. No, fuck that.
Well, that I would say that whole idea of let's keeping it real. That's what that is. Let's keeping it real stupid. That's exactly what you finish the sentence. Let's keeping it real stupid. And then I want to say this: anybody that decides to unsubscribe, it ain't like we got many, but anybody so far that decides to unsubscribe or stop listening or watching the channel because we're not going to be drama based, I want you to look yourself in the mirror and say, I refuse to grow. I want to remain a Negro, and therefore I am unsubscribing. And I want to go back into embellishing what it is that makes me a dysfunctional person and live out the rest of my measly life being a slave, and screw anybody that wants to be a revolutionary. Say that, look in the mirror and be willing to say that, because that's in essence is what you're doing. And it's okay. We recognize that some people have to be, you know, what I always refer to as being body shields, because there's always a place for you. So just you know, do yourself that favor and be real and keep it real with yourself and just say that.
And I will remember that you could be anywhere, you could be home, you could be anywhere on the planet, but best believe the last words on my lips would be, you are a nigga. And that's just what it is. That's what it is.
Okay.
Y'all saw that that silly movie, The Hard Fall? You see that yet, Psych?
Yeah.
Yeah. You saw it?
Yeah.
That's some bullshit. That was some bullshit. I kind of let my hopes get up just a little bit, but it's still the same old buffoonery and nonsense, man. I mean,
break it down. Why you didn't like it?
It's supposed to be a Western. If we're gonna do a Western, do a fucking Western. Do it, Young Gun style. You know what I'm saying? Do it, you know, even Hateful Eight. If it's gonna be dramatic, be dramatic. Have the music be dramatic. The music added nothing to the overall experience. These cats riding horses into town and shit. They got fucking Damian Marley playing in the back. What the fuck does that have to do with cats riding? Wasn't no Damian Marley. Wasn't no reggae in the old West. Play some music that feeds into the feeling of it, not just because, oh, it's hype, motherfuckers gonna listen to it, because that's all it was. Oh, this hype, let's put this on there. Yeah, rah, rah. No, this ain't gangster shit. Say that shit for Belly. That's where that goes. Put some Western music in that shit and create the overall atmosphere of this was a badass cowboy. I mean, if you think about it, cowboys were a whole lot tougher than motherfuckers that's running around here today. So, you know, if you really understand the lifestyle and what they had going on, and tell that story. The sister that was the one with the big top hat, I forget her name, Crazy Mary Horse, Shotgun Mary.
Stagecoach.
Okay, that chick, this light-skinned chick that got in there. She is in there solely for the purpose of being cute. Because if you look at Stagecoach, what's Stagecoach Mary or whatever, if you look at a picture of her, chick looks like Harriet Tubman. She ain't, you know, mainstream cute. She ain't Halle Berry looking. That's what that chick put me in the mindset of Halle Berry up in this shit. They might as well just put Halle Berry in this shit. But the real Stagecoach Mary, she looked like a damn gangster. She looked like she had been through some shit. She wasn't all pretty and cute and ready for the, you know, going out and dancing. No, she looked like she had been like Harriet Tubman, like she'd been through some shit and she was ready to fuck somebody up. But whenever I see that shit, it automatically, here we go. This is not about the story. This ain't about the acting. This ain't about the play, about none of that. It's about putting a big name in there and another big name in there and a pretty name, and then put some music on there to grab everybody's attention and make them look. And it's just, it was not a good experience. It wasn't, we still haven't mastered the art of telling our own story. That's that Netflix shit. Fuck that Netflix shit. Tell our story the way white people tell their story. I got into an argument with this white boy named Eris from, I don't know, some white ass country where they can't talk right. He was saying, we were debating, it was years and years ago, we weren't really debating. I told him he was dumb, and he was, because the shit he said. There was a new James Bond coming out, and this dude was dead set against, because Idris Elba's name had been floated to play the new James Bond. And it's like, James Bond can't be black. What the fuck not? He's not a real character. He can be anything you want him to be. What the fuck are you talking about? But white people are so, they were replaced when they did The Last Airbender. Last Airbender is supposed to be some little Asian kid. They got some white kids playing this shit. White people will stick to their truth, their narrative when they're telling a story. But we can't do that yet. We haven't gotten to where we can say, fuck you, this is what she looked like, this is what he looked like, this is a life like that. We're still not at the point where we can tell our story. We feel like we have to, it's like, what do you call it, sitcoms and shit. When we have TV shows, you might have an all-black cast for a season, but eventually you're gonna add somebody white to it. Eventually you're gonna have somebody white come be a part of that cast, because you get to a point where you max out your black crowd. You need to cross over and grow bigger, so you start adding white folk to the mix to make it more universal. But then, like Living Single, I don't recall them ever doing that. I hope they didn't. I have to go back and look at that last season or whatever. But the spinoff, the ripoff, Friends, the white version of Living Single, because Living Single came out, I don't know if y'all remember, with what's her name, Khadijah, and Tootie was on there, and that Sister Max, boy, that Sister Max, I tell you what. But white folks ripped that shit off and came up with Friends. That bullshit. They may have had a black person or two walk through, say a couple of lines and move on, but they never added anybody black to the cast, never. But we will still, in order to find our, make our voice and our story legit, we'll still at some point go and involve white people in our story. Fuck that shit. We've got to get to the point where we support one another telling our story as it is, period. If it's an all black cast and it's telling stories of black cowboys, tell that shit. That shit needs to be done from our perspective, not accommodating the oppressor, not with the nonsense music so people will come and watch it. Fuck that. Do our story and keep it moving. And stop being so quick to do what we need to do to make it mainstream. You see what happens when we do what we need to do to make it mainstream. Your boy Jay-Z, fuck Jay-Z. This whole title shit, he got all these black folk hyped up on a black version of Apple Music. It's black owns, black this, wah. Hit all of these millions of subscribers and shit, got people buying it. Yeah, it's black owned, rock, all that shit, only to turn around and sell that shit. Fuck you, fuck Jay-Z. They're all about the same shit. And that's why capitalism don't fucking work, because the shit is about capitalizing, which is what he did. He made big money off of it. He used the game, played the race card. And then when he got to where he had his pockets the way he wanted it, he sold that shit and moved the fuck on. So yeah, fuck Jay-Z. And fuck that movie, because it was crap.
Who he sell it to? Who he sell title to?
I want to say Sprint. Give me 30 seconds, I'll tell you.
I didn't know he had sold it.
Yeah, he sold it.
That's how you become a billionaire.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
he knew what he was gonna do.
Yeah. And he set up and fucking tells you. I mean, if you listen to his rap lyrics, he's talking about the drug game and the music game and all that. It's all a game. It's all the same thing. Why the hell, if doing it that way got him to $50 million, why would he change the game so radically to do something to help the people out when he stands to continue to make money? It's the same game in corporate America that it is in Bonton or Poly or whatever street, whatever your hood is, the same drug game, prostitution game, all that shit that's going on out in the street is the same shit that's happening in corporate boardrooms. So yeah, Aspiro, the fuck Spiro, I don't know who they are. Jack Dorsey Square. I don't know what that means, who that is. Square paid $250 million for an 80% stake in Tidal. So yeah.
Let me say this about that movie. I kind of disagree with you.
Yeah, I know it.
on part of. Let me say what part I disagree with you.
The music.
I disagree that they was even attempting to tell the story of our people. I don't even think that was the aim of the movie. I think the aim of the movie was basically just to create to come up with all of these different characters that really did exist, and plot a movie that would attract again the youth to watch something and simply be exposed to the fact that they were there, but then do a Hollywood thing and just sell a movie and create dramatization and do everything other than actually tell our story, because the movie didn't tell nothing about our story at all. It was just simply, hey, these characters exist. I'm gonna pretty them up. I'm gonna make them look like this. I'm gonna make it appealing. I'm gonna throw some music in there that will keep your attention on watching this mess, so that I can get more people to watch this mess. There was zero substance in that movie, but I don't think he ever had any intent on having substance in the movie. I think the whole point of the thing was just to simply let you know that these characters did exist, and then just basically from that point on go Hollywood.
I think you're giving them too much credit by saying they were letting you know that these characters did exist. They don't give a fuck about letting anybody know if the characters existed. And really, between those who were actually in the movie, Idris Elba, and I hate, I like Regina King, and the masses of the people, quit fronting. Y'all know better. Don't take the role just because you want to take the role. I mean, it's not going to change unless they don't have anybody to play the role. There's enough money floating around between Black folks to write that shit, write a real movie, a good movie that actually tells a story. There's no excuse. Ice Cube talking about, okay, we got your ass elected and all of that. Now what? Now what, nigga? It's the same fucking game. You tell your own story. You got enough money. Stop writing Friday and all the rest of this bullshit. Slap that whatever it is, Medea guy dude in the back of his head, his or her head, whatever, and have him do some actual, factual, real shit. I mean, again, it's just that fucking simple. There's nothing complicated about the shit. But people don't want to do it. That's the bottom line. You get big money, you don't want to do it. You ain't got big money, so you oppressed trying to just make it day to day, you don't want to do it. So it's like, what? That's why I'd be like, fuck it. Poor folk ain't gonna do it because they working too hard. Rich folk ain't gonna do it because they living life. What's the motive? What's the motivation? Why should I try to get free? Fuck that.
Well, let me say this about the movie, and I'm gonna move on. Y'all got to remember that the director, Samuel, did there was a prequel to that same movie, and it was called They Die by Dawn, and Erykah Badu plays Stagecoach Mary. Remember that. So y'all gotta go back and watch that one now.
They did. So they had already did a movie on it?
He had already did it. No, he basically, like I said, it was a prequel, so it kind of like led up to the same one that just got released on Netflix.
Yeah. What's your point?
My point is, if you go watch that one, you're gonna see a lot of the same non-substance that I'm talking about. So it's not like he knew or was doing that to create an opportunity. It was just never meant to do that. It was just never meant to do that.
Let me be the devil's advocate for a minute. Let me be the devil's advocate. I know y'all supposed to go off when I say this. Now, what if, okay, Jay-Z has partially funded this movie and it employed a Black director and it employed a whole bunch of Black actors, Idris Elba, Regina King, all these people. The other brother that played the main character, I had never seen that brother before. So it employed a lot of Black people, and it gave a lot of Black people some, I guess you could say, heroes to look at, because if you look at the Facebook comments, all the Black people love this movie. They love it. They crazy about it. So is that a positive in this movie?
No, because we had full employment and a whole lot of heroes in 1822 called slavery. So it didn't fucking change. Thing. You give people a job. That's, again, capitalism. We think because we got a job, oh, that's movement forward. That's not fucking movement forward.
True indeed. True
That's
indeed.
being able to plug in your little subservient way to a system that is exploiting you day in and day out. You don't believe it? Go back to the value of your dollar. You bust your ass just as hard as your daddy busted his ass, or your mama, whoever busted their ass when you was coming up as a kid, but your purchasing power is less because everything is more expensive. How the fuck is that progress? It's not. What's his name? What's that guy's name? H. Brown. I know he's got a Arabic name now, but I just like H. Brown better. So I'm gonna call him H. Brown. No disrespect.
What is it? I mean, I can't remember it.
Yeah, something with
I know it.
Yeah.
Well, Mil Al-Jamin.
Yeah. You know, he said it. Oh, we keep mistaking concessions for progress. You're conceding to get $15 an hour. That's not progress. That's a concession. You gave in, said, okay, we'll take this in place of real improvement. It's a concession. No, we keep doing that shit. Fuck that shit. People gonna die? Yeah, but people dying already. Is it gonna be hard work? Yeah, but we're working hard already. Is it gonna be rough and tough? Yeah, but it's already rough and tough. What the fuck you got to lose? I like Trump. What do you got to lose?
All right, I got another one for y'all. Since we talk about this movie. So since this movie was so terrible, give me a great black movie, black director, black finance, that was a good black movie that actually added to the black narrative.
I'd be hard pressed. No, I could tell you The Matrix, because a sister wrote and put that shit together and sued them. Wachowski used to be brothers, now they're both females. Shit, sued them and won. So if you know anything about copyright law and all, that's very, very difficult to do. So the fact that she did it must mean that she had some really airtight evidence and shit. So that's as close as I could come. Because the reality of it is, I mean, matter of fact, Sankofa, and it's on Netflix. If you haven't seen that, that's a good movie. It's a very good movie, and it was black directed. I mean,
the funny thing, when I first saw The Matrix, and I didn't know a sister wrote it at the time. I first learned it from I want to say How to Hustle and Win Part 2 by Supreme Understanding, a book that brother wrote. And he talks about it and breaks it down in that book. The name of the book is Rap, Race, and Revolution, How to Hustle and Win Part 2. Anyway, but when I first saw The Matrix, you know how we felt about it. It resonated so tough because it talks so much about, from a metaphorical standpoint, about the struggle that we deal with. And I saw so much at times when Morpheus was teaching Neo, I saw so much of Malcolm X's speeches and things that Malcolm said in the things that Morpheus was telling Neo. I saw that. That's why I love the movie so much back then. So when I found out that a sister actually wrote it, it made all the sense in the world to me. But it made all sense. I read an article, I want to say it was in Smooth magazine. Ice Cube was in Smooth. It was either Smooth or King magazine. I know y'all don't know what the hell that is. I did time, so Smooth and King, and these was important magazines to get a hold of, So Ice Cube was in the magazine, and one of the things they asked Cube in the magazine was based on his music and what his music used to talk about, Death Certificate, Predator, things like that. Based on what his music used to talk about, they would expect somebody like him to put out more revolutionary minded, community focused type content. But instead, he became popular as the guy from Friday. They asked him why. Why didn't he put out something that was conscious? And he said that America's not ready to see us in those roles. That basically that music and movies is how he make his money, and that he couldn't get a film produced when he tried to bring forth something serious. And so unfortunately, they wanted to see those comedic roles, so he put out Friday, and that, that's his biggest franchise. He put out movies like that. And even now, he still haven't put out anything community conscious. We still haven't seen it. You know, like you just said, I can't lie. I said the same thing. When I was teaching classes to brothers in the penitentiary, I used to tell them, you know, it's certain things that let me know where a person really stands. Tyler Perry has a whole studio. Ice Cube has Hollywood Power now. There are people that have, only person that I think that tried to stick to the script and really tried to put forth community conscious movies was Spike Lee. I think he really tried to stay on it, and you see he didn't really get to grow as far as a lot of these other dudes did. But I said that I'll be looking for somebody to put out a Suntler Overture. I'll be looking for somebody to truly put out, even Melvin Van Peebles and Mario Van Peebles. They said when they did Panther, nobody would fund the movie. They had to go out into their own bank account, pull the money out of their own bank account to fund the movie. You know, this is the type of situation they was placed in. And I'm surprised that Spike Lee was able to even do the Malcolm X movie. And I know you didn't really like it because it didn't stick to the book, but I love the movie. That's one of my favorite movies. I love that movie. I love the movie. I don't care what you say, E. And the reason they didn't stick to the book is because you got to have that man's family's permission to use them, and he didn't have it. So he had to make it be that he learned, even though we know that he learned about the Nation of Islam and Elijah Muhammad from his little brother Reginald. They didn't have permission to use Reginald, so they had to make it that he learned from some guy named N.B.P.P in prison. But anyway, back to the story. I still love the movie. I don't care what you say. And Denzel played a hell of a Malcolm. He played a hell of a Malcolm.
Horrible.
Yes, that was probably his best. That was probably his best character in his acting career.
No.
You don't listen to so many Malcolm X speeches. I would watch Denzel, and he had Malcolm's movements down pat.
No.
He just didn't like it because he wasn't light enough. That's what it was. You wanted to see a red, light-skinned Negro with hazel eyes. That's what you wanted to see.
There are actors that could have played that role, and there's one that I'm still trying to find. It was a public broadcasting did a fictional account of Malcolm and Martin meeting in a hotel room and the debate that ensued between them over the course of a day. And the brother that played Malcolm in that would have been a hell of a lot better than Denzel. Denzel got that role because Denzel was hot, because he wanted to draw people in, not because Denzel could act. There was a lot of actors, even outside of the one that I just talked about, that would have done a much better job than Malcolm. There are actors who understood, who had studied, who were mentally a part of what Malcolm was talking about and would have brought that passion to the screen. Denzel was, as far as Hollywood's concerned, a made man. It's just like when somebody gets to the NBA, they don't play as hard as when they're in college ball because they made it. So this whole connection that it just wasn't there for me.
I love Denzel. Denzel said in an interview, when Denzel won the what is that actors win? What was that he won for Training Day?
Mm-hmm.
What was that?
Emmy Award, I think.
No, he won the big one, the major one, the Oscar. When he won the Oscar for Training Day, they did an interview with him, and they asked him what was his most profound role that he ever played, and he said that of Malcolm X. And he said that when he played Malcolm, studying Malcolm and learning Malcolm the way he did, he said the role was so profound that even after the movie was over, he still walked around for months as Malcolm X, like he was possessed. He said he was responding to things and answering questions like he was Malcolm. He said it took a while for him to get out of the character of being Malcolm X. He said that's how much that role affected him.
And that's great for him. Horrible movie.
Yeah, well, let me ask.
As roles are concerned, his role in Glory was much, 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 much better.
That was a great role. It was. He acted his behind off in that movie.
So yeah.
But I think what he gave us as Malcolm, he gave us that serious, that serious Malcolm world in the movie. In that movie, what's that movie that you hated with the four him, Ali, all in the motel room?
And the four brothers.
He gave us a more emotional, like a Malcolm that wasn't focused. But Denzel gave us that focused Malcolm, that Malcolm that was
But even with that focus, the energy, the anger, the frustration that came through in glory could have still been there. Because when you look at Malcolm and you see him getting wired up in his speeches, you can't tell me you don't feel glory. You can't tell me you don't feel that energy of the dude getting beat, standing there, and that one tear coming down out his eye. You know that Malcolm feels that when he's speaking and whatnot. And that's what I'm talking about. You can be focused all day, but if you really feel it, just like you felt the Matrix, if you really feel it, it's gonna come through. I ain't feel it from him. I felt like it was a role for him. He did all right as far as Hollywood type of shit is concerned. But as far as actually expressing our angst and frustration, which is what Malcolm did, that's why people loved him, just like Pac. People loved him because he was saying what they wanted to say in a way that they dare not say it. He didn't do that in that movie. He wasn't no wiring up. So sorry, can't help you on that one.
Hey, let me tell y'all mine real quick. I would say Panther by Van Peebles is to me number one. Then the Huey P. Newton story, I think he killed that one.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. See, I was like, why you didn't mention that? The Huey P. Newton story. I thought
I couldn't watch the Huey P. Newton story.
Man, that was a good one.
Huh?
What's wrong with you?
I might have to try it again. I tried to watch it. It almost made Huey seem like he was
He was at the end.
He was.
I know it was. I just don't like that. You know, I like Huey.
Oh, that's your Malcolm. Yeah. That's your Malcolm.
You know, I love Huey, but
he messed up your bro. No, fuck that.
I didn't like the skits in Huey. I like that deep, profound political thinking Huey.
But he still was what he portrayed in the movie was still deep. He still hit it on the nail. And he did that, showing Huey in that crazy in between world, jumping back and forth. That's what to me what was powerful, is because you got the essence of what Huey was trying to portray to the people, but it's like it drove him stir crazy to do so. So he always puffing on that cigarette. But it's like, look here, man, I'm going mad out of my mind because y'all just don't get it. Yeah. And that's what was powerful about that.
Feel him.
I'm gonna go, you know what? When we get through with this, I'm gonna go check it out. I'm gonna sit through it. I
might watch that my damn self. Yeah, I forgot about that one. Yeah, that was a good one. That was really good.
I love Huey's political philosophy. I love Huey in that, and I guess I learned his political philosophy from reading and not necessarily seeing a lot of images of him. So when I saw that, it was like,
hurt your feeling.
Well, all you doing now is just identifying the problem we started off with the younger generations, because they get the meat of a lot of their information based on films. This is why we started off talking about how much we hate a lot of the films, because they don't have no substance. Yeah, well, that's how most of our people are getting their information out, through YouTube, through drama TV, and through being exposed to historical figures through movies. And when they do so, they most of the time they turn up the individual, and so it ain't inspiring to us that are built on reading, because we dig into it. You put a lot more in words than you can on a 30-minute or a 2-hour visual. That's basically just an introduction, and that's what I'm saying. Folks are studying these movies as if they're going to really be able to embellish the heart of what it means to actually be a revolutionary. And that's, to me, is what's sad, because that is the death in which a lot of people are calling themselves astute or learned on a subject matter, because they watch a 2-hour video.
Mm-hmm. How about that Jasper movie? That was pretty good.
It was a Jasper movie?
Whatever, man.
It was a movie about what went on in Jasper, and it had Bokeem Woodbine playing Khaled.
What?
Horrible.
Yeah, you need to see that. How can you not have watched that? Yeah, go back and watch that.
I mean, I'll find the name of it for you and shoot it to you. I want to say it's on YouTube, but I don't know. If not, then I'll make it available to you some kind of way.
Yeah, I know clips of it on YouTube. Clips of it.
I never even heard of it. I didn't know it existed.
It was horrible.
Who they got playing war?
Yeah, I was looking for our characters, by the way.
we ain't nowhere in there, huh?
I don't think so.
Well, I wouldn't be in there because I was always behind the scenes. I never even had photo footage when we were doing those things.
This is true.
Yeah.
True.
So I wouldn't know.
It's a little hedgehog playing war, little revolutionary hedgehog. So say, do this, Psych. Okay, you know, when I get down and do these things, I'm interactive. So you're gonna have to play along with me. Pay attention, War. So first thing I need you to do, Psych, is rub your head.
What?
Rub your head.
What the hell you mean rub my head?
Come on, it's a method to the madness. Play along. Just rub your head. What do you feel?
I felt my head.
Like,
Huh?
what does it feel like?
It felt like my hand was rubbing across my head.
I mean, it's like smooth, or it's rough, or
It's smooth. It's freshly shaved.
okay. And you sitting at your desk, right?
Yeah.
All right. So tap on the desk. Tap on it with your knuckles. Just tap. How's that desk feel?
It feels hard.
Okay. So feelings are a conscious interpretation of a sensation, right? Like
Yeah.
it feels hard, it feels smooth. Agree?
All right.
Okay, so conscious interpretation of a stimulation. So if I ask you, yo, Psych, how you feel, man? Like right now, how you feel?
Now, here's the problem.
You got
Here's the problem right here.
Come on.
It's
How you
called,
feel?
you know, in the Black community that we use terms outside of their proper context. So when we say feel, we're talking about emotions, even though we're not really, even though that's not the problem. Because we'll say, man, that's bad, and we mean it's good. Or we'll say, can you feel me? Meaning, do I touch you emotionally with what I'm saying? Or we'll say, you can't see me. Not talking about that you can't see me with your eyes, but you can't comprehend what level I'm coming from. So we use these slang terms all the time.
But feel is not a slang term. You can say the same thing to somebody white and you know, what do you call it? Catholic church, just, you know, holier than thou, straight legs, got the tie on, all that, and say, how you feeling today, sir? And he'll tell you, oh, I feel pretty good. I feel such and such. I feel. And my point is, feelings are a conscious interpretation of a stimulus, either rubbing our head or tapping on a table, or that would be an external stimulus. But feelings, because we use the word meaning the same thing, not in slang, but because we feel, those same feelings are responding to internal stimuli. That external stimuli is what we call emotions. So when we talk about somebody making an emotional decision, what we're actually, most of the times what comes to mind is people making decisions based on how they feel about it. Have you ever in your life, not through reason or logic, sitting out on Bonton, you and your boy back in the day, nobody gave you any information, you didn't reason and analyze it, but something just didn't feel right. Something in your pit of your stomach gave you a gut feeling that something was going on. There's a difference between emotion and feeling. Feeling is your interpretation of an emotion. Your emotions you never consciously experience, you just experience your feelings about those emotions. When there was one point we exchanged a few texts and I sent you a link to these cats named Le Twin. And they're this French dance duo, underground dance, they're above ground now, but they're cold. If you ever get a chance to watch them bad boy, they are dope. The reason I sent it is because we were talking about one of the things you had asked was for examples of decisions being made based on emotional decisions. They call it musicality now. But when these cats get up and they're dancing and they're moving, they're not reasoning and logic and all of the, you know, coming up with these different moves. They're in the moment. They're in tune with their emotions because music is very much an emotional experience. And so they're vibing off of that, the emotion that's being moved and manipulated by that music. To take it further, fucking around with war, this is one of the things we should have picked up 20 years ago. If you go and ask Bruce Lee, if he was still alive, about fighting, The logical way for him, where he was brought up, are these predetermined moves. These, I'm gonna block this way and I'm gonna chop that way and blah, blah, blah. But he wasn't feeling that, because a true martial art, an effective martial art, is in response to what's going on. An emotional response, not a logic, not reasoned out response, but an emotional response. Jeet Kune Do is based on the flow of the energy back and forth. And it's that energy that we tap into when we start learning and feeling these emotions, not necessarily with our hands, but feeling them and allowing them to have their place and to move and to dictate our movements. Rappers, if you cut an album and whatnot, you probably sat down and wrote out the lyrics, and this rhymes with that, and this has the flow, and this is saying what I want to. But when you get on the mic and you freestyling, and I've tried it, to sit there and figure out what comes next, it fucks you up. But the best freestylers get into that moment. They're not thinking about it. They're having an emotional experience, and it's just coming straight from their emotions into their words, and they're just going. So those are decisions based on emotion, not feelings. Feelings get you fucked up. But your emotions being allowed their space to make decisions and rolling with those emotions and flowing with those emotions. There's a time and a place for that. And part of the way that we get to that point is through shadow work, embracing those things about ourselves that we hate, that we dislike, that we see as weakness, embracing those things so that we own those things, and those things no longer come from our subconscious to make decisions and go directions that end up fucking us up, but allow us to tame them, put them in their proper place. I miss the shit out my youngest daughter. Haven't seen her in whatever number of years. There's a song, and y'all might laugh at me, I don't give a shit. There's a song, Sweet Child of Mine, by whatever the name of that group, Guns N' Roses, Sweet Child of Mine. The lyrics are about, I'm guessing, his daughter or whatever that he hasn't seen, and how he looks at it, it takes him to a special place and blah, blah, and it reminds me of her. So there are times when I play that song, I played the song the other day on the way home from work, and I looped it for 30 minutes, 30, 40 minutes, that one song, just looped it over and over. That was an emotional decision. I had to allow that emotion to have its expression in that minute. There was no logical reason for me to listen to that same song over and over again. It was only the reason that this is what I felt. And so it expressed it, and I was in tune with that and allowed it to be what it was. So these are examples of emotion, and there are many others, allowing or having emotion, making emotional decisions based on emotions, not feeling, but those emotions and the way we interpret them. So there you go.
Right now, I'm gonna let you be the guru and have this right now, because when we had this debate, I'm gonna be prepared for you on this. But I think that still, I believe, and you know, we got a difference on this, that when we're talking about this, making emotional decisions and intuition, it's two different things. Like when you talked about being in the hood, and I'm from Lego, by the way, not Bunton. Now,
yeah, thank you
by the way,
for correcting him on that one.
Yeah, I gotta correct you on that.
Only name I can remember. That's the only name I can.
South Dallas got a lot of hoods: Dixon, Park Road, Bunton, Colonial. You know, you can get it straight. But anyway, so but being in the block, I'm going to do a little psychology. Being on the block and having that feeling in the pit of your stomach of what you need to do. That's that intuitive part of us that we evolved as human beings. And see, one of the things about anything alive, it would do what it needs to do to stay alive. We have a survival imperative. So, example, Warlock is walking through the jungle 1,000 years ago. He see a bush shake. The bush shakes. War goes over there like the average white guy in a movie, in a horror movie. I wonder what that is. War walk over, look into the bush, a lion jump out, slap War upside his head, leave a big scar across his head. Somehow he gets away. Now, embedded in War's psyche, subconsciously, he responds to a shaking bush. When he's walking through the jungle, maybe a year later, the bush go to shaking. War catches out running because he has an adrenaline response cortisol starts to course through his body, through his veins, secreting through his pituitary gland. Boy catches out running. Boy takes off, you know, and then a bunny jumps out of the bush. Boy never saw what was in the bush, but his body chemistry responded exactly the same way that it did when that lion jumped out on him and hit him upside his head. This is the way we are structured as people, as human beings. This is the way we are developed for our own survival reasons. So that intuition will come up, even if you don't realize it. You know, when you meet somebody, and we've all done it at some point in time, you meet somebody, you really don't know them. They've never done nothing to you personally, but you don't like them. You meet them, see them, you don't like this person. And you're like, I don't know why, I just don't like this dude. But the reason is that person, and you don't know this, but that person has similar facial structures, maybe a behavior pattern, maybe a voice flow in the flow of his conversation that's similar to somebody that did you dirty years ago. And you're not consciously aware of this. But because this person brings that back to mind, you automatically don't like this person. Because this is how we are structured as people. Because God, evolution, nature, whatever you want to call it, whatever it is, whatever you believe it is, didn't believe in our intelligence. Didn't believe that we were smart enough to learn the things that we needed to learn in order to guarantee our own survival. So some of these things are just programmed in us on automatic remote control. So that's what you're talking about that pit feeling. And we do make decisions on that because we respond to it without even thinking about it. And that's what Bruce Lee was talking about with the martial arts, about learning no style. Once you train and condition yourself to do a certain behavior, a move so many times, then it'll become natural. It'll become your natural response. So these are things that I believe that are separated from somebody making an emotional decision. People get emotional and make decisions and make steps based off emotion. And I think sometimes it can come out good, but most of the time, because an emotional decision is not well thought out, it can come out bad, and they can do something that's not the best thing for them to do. And this is what you and I have been debating about, you know, which I think is separate from that intuitive, more spiritual level of thinking that we can allow ourselves to get into and get in the habit of staying in, as far as moving and operating, that a martial arts wants to move. I make this in 60 seconds. I asked both of y'all why y'all do what y'all do. The reason I'm not active in the community, and it was my plan to come home, you know, and I've never made bones about it and never was ashamed to say, I did 17 years in prison. I went to prison in 2001. I was a member of the New Black Panther Party Dallas chapter at that time. Chief of staff of the New Black Panther Party Dallas chapter, actually, when I went to prison. And when I left,
Damn shame.
Khalid had already died, actually. But I mean, it happened so fast. Khalid had been drafted into the party, made the national chairman, and then died. And we all went to the funeral in New York and all that. But it hadn't become what it is now. So it was still in its infinite phases. And for me, the New Black Panther Party basically was headquartered out of Dallas at the time. It was just, matter of fact, we didn't know of too many more New Black Panther Party chapters. Dr. Khalid brought new people in, Malik Shabazz, and all those brothers, and then started spreading and creating chapters. But, you know, when we started, it was just the Dallas chapter for the most part that I understood and know of. And when I left, we still had a certain level of unity. And when I came back, it was all kind of fractions, like a game, you know, like different sets, like the Crips. There's different sets, 5 Deuce Hoovers, 60s, 20s, it's all kind of sets. You know what I'm saying? And the same thing, blood sets, it's all kind of sets. And I didn't like that. You know, I honestly didn't understand how we can be for the unity and advancement of the Black community and be against each other. I never understood it. And it's something we've been doing since our history here in the country. As he brought up earlier, the East Coast, West Coast Panther thing. It ain't new. You know, we just don't like to look at it, but it's not new. But I just didn't like it and I didn't understand it. And I truly believe that the Panther cannot grow and be what it's meant to be if we're at each other's throats. You know, and that's just my personal opinion on that. But that's what I mean by where is the Panther now? Where do y'all think the Panther is now? And do y'all think that we can retrieve it from complete destruction?
Let me answer that. I feel like I know that it's at the point now to where it's actually revolving back to the point of being more consolidated. It spread out and it became dozens, literally dozens of branches. Now some of those branches are starting to reconnect again and come back together and formulate again. It's not nowhere near to where it was when, you know, obviously in its very beginnings, but it is going back to a position now to where it's coming back together. With that, I think the mentality of the Panther and the essence of the movement has more so, like I said, to do with those three S's, which is self-seeding and social in terms of governance. And so we are at a position where we're having to address the philosophy as well as the ideology of what it means to be a Panther, which is why we got, you know, Panther 48 and us doing our part to try to bring that back around, because we're dealing with a class of people, not just Panthers, but there's a class of people that has forgotten the essence of critical thinking, the essence of putting in real work, and the essence of the preliminaries that you need to deal with in order to just step out in the field and say that not only are you willing, but you're ready and capable of operating at the capacity needed to work toward empowerment for your people. So I think that's where we at, is that I see some of the generations, and some people within the generations are starting to recognize that curve and reconnect with the middle generation and the elders and start, you know, making amends and correcting some of the problems that has went on for the past 20 years, you know, as Brother E and Brother Aaron will put it. So I see us getting back to a better position, not to say we're there yet or close to being there, but I see us coming back into the fold of working our way, you know, away from that decline, going back into the incline. Now, the point being is a lot of time is taking place and a lot of mistakes are being made. And are we in a position to be able to play catch up? That is yet to be told, but I'm doing my part to help, you know, address this curve going back onto the incline. And that's all I got to say on that.
You got something?
Depends on how you define being a Panther. You know, years ago we used to say every black man, woman, and child is a Panther. They just don't know it, or they just don't know their role in it. They're not active or whatever. But it's like wherever the people are, that's where the party's gonna be. You know, this is. I mean, I really couldn't tell you. I mean, aside from us, I don't interact with. Well, I don't interact with any other party membership on any type of regular basis. So I can only go off of what our people in general in this country are doing. And because we're still reactionary, we're still facing the same issues. We're still at the same standstill. And I think that it's going to take something outside of our community, just a huge event for us to really pull strings or to tighten up the network and pull one another, pull ourselves back closer to one another, both within and outside of the party. But, you know, good luck to you.
Well, folks, that was your Panther 48. I think we built on a lot of things. I think E was probably the superstar of this one. I think he took the show on this one. We don't care who you are, New Black Panther Party, Panther Vanguard, UP Newton Gun Club, we got love for you. We trying to build. And this was Panther 48. All power to the people.